I knew something was wrong the moment she stepped onto my property, like she already owned it. No knock, no hesitation, no hello, no introduction. Just a cold, silent stare and a strange sense of authority that didn't belong to her. The kind of look that makes you feel like you're the one out of place, even though you're standing in your own yard. And in that moment, something didn't feel right. Not just uncomfortable, not just awkward. Wrong. Because it wasn't just the way she looked at me. It was the way she stood there, like she had every right to be there, like she was inspecting something that belonged to her. And that's when it hit me, a thought I hadn't considered before, a realization I didn't expect. Buying the only house outside the HOA was about to turn into something much bigger than I imagined. Something stressful, something frustrating, maybe even a complete mistake. So let me take you back to the beginning, before any of this happened, before the tension, before the arguments, before her. A few months ago, life was simple. I wasn't chasing anything big. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted one thing: peace. A quiet place. Somewhere I could wake up in the morning without noise, without stress, without someone telling me what I can or cannot do. No rules, no restrictions, no one watching my every move. Because honestly, after dealing with enough pressure in life, all I wanted was a place where I could just be myself. And that's when I found it, the house. Now, I won't lie, it wasn't perfect, not even close.
The paint on the walls was slightly faded. The front yard looked like it hadn't been properly taken care of in a while. And the fence, well, it had definitely seen better days. But something about it felt right. You know that feeling when you walk into a place and even though it's not perfect, it just feels like yours. That's exactly what this was. It wasn't about luxury. It wasn't about appearance. It was about freedom. But what really made this house special wasn't how it looked. It was where it stood, right at the edge of a neighborhood that looked almost too perfect. Clean streets, perfectly trimmed lawns, houses that all looked almost identical, like everything had been carefully planned, carefully controlled, carefully maintained. And as peaceful as it looked, there was something about it that felt restricted. Because every single one of those houses was part of an HOA. Now, if you've never dealt with an HOA before, let me explain it in the simplest way possible. An HOA is basically an organization that creates rules for the neighborhood, and not just small rules, strict ones. They decide what color your house can be, how often you need to cut your grass, where you can park your car, even what kind of decorations you're allowed to have outside. And if you don't follow those rules, you get warnings, fines, and sometimes even legal trouble. And I didn't want that. Not even a little bit. So when I found out something unbelievable, I couldn't believe my luck. This one house, somehow, legally, was not part of the HOA. Even though it was surrounded by it, even though it was right next to it, it existed outside their control. No rules, no fees, no one telling me what to do. That was it.
That was the moment I decided. I didn't think twice. I didn't hesitate. I bought it. And for a while, everything was exactly how I imagined it would be. Quiet mornings, where the only sound was the wind or birds. Peaceful evenings, where I could sit outside and just relax. No complaints, no letters, no problems. Just peace. But then,
something started to change. At first, it was small. Not because I was scared, but because I was confused. So I stayed calm and said politely, "Oh, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not part of the HOA." And that's when everything changed. She didn't pause, didn't question it, didn't even consider the possibility. She just laughed. Not a normal laugh, not the kind you give when something is funny. This was different. Cold, dismissive, almost mocking. The kind of laugh that says, "You have no idea what you're talking about." Then she stepped a little closer, looked me straight in the eyes, and said something I'll never forget. "Everyone here is part of the HOA." And in that moment, everything became clear. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This wasn't just a neighbor being curious. This was someone who truly believed they had control over something they didn't. And the way she said it, the confidence, the certainty, it told me one thing. This wasn't going to end easily. And deep down, I had a feeling this was only the beginning. I really thought ignoring her would solve the problem. I thought if I didn't react, if I didn't argue, if I didn't give her the attention she clearly wanted, she would eventually stop. I was wrong, because what started as a simple conversation, something small, something almost harmless, quickly turned into something much bigger, much more aggressive, and honestly, something I wasn't prepared for. A few days later, I came home after a long day, tired, mentally drained, just wanting to relax. As I walked up to my front door, something caught my attention immediately. There was a paper taped right in the center of the door. No envelope, no stamp, no attempt to make it look official in any normal way. Just a single sheet of paper, placed there like a message. And the way it was taped, it wasn't casual. It was intentional, perfectly centered, like someone wanted to make sure I couldn't miss it. I pulled it off the door, and at the very top, in bold letters, it said, "Official Notice." That alone was enough to make me stop for a second, because even though I knew, deep down, they had no authority over me, there's still something about the word official that makes you take it seriously. So I kept reading, and that's when it got ridiculous. Underneath the title was a list, a very specific list. My grass was too long. Not overgrown, not out of control, just too long. My trash bins were visible, which of course they were, because it's a house. People have trash bins. And then, my car. Apparently, it was improperly parked. Improperly parked? In my own driveway. And then at the bottom, there it was. A warning. Fix everything within 48 hours or face fines. Fines. from an HOA that I wasn't even part of. I just stood there for a moment, reading it again and again, trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke. And honestly, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so ridiculous. I didn't know how else to react, because legally, they had no power over me. None. No contract, no agreement, no authority. So in my mind, this wasn't a problem. It was just someone trying to act important. So I did what most people would do when faced with something that makes no sense. I ignored it. I didn't respond, didn't call anyone, didn't change anything. I just went inside, closed the door, and went on with my day. And for a moment, I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong, because she didn't ignore me back. A few days later, early in the morning, before I was even fully awake, I heard something. At first, it was faint, just noise. But then it got louder, clearer, angrier, shouting. Loud, aggressive, constant. I got out of bed, walked to the window, and looked outside. And there she was, standing right in my driveway. Not at the edge, not near the sidewalk. In my driveway, like she belonged there. She was pointing at my house, talking loudly, complaining about everything she could see. My lawn, my car, my trash bins, even things that didn't make sense. And the strange part was, she wasn't just talking to me. It felt like she was performing, like she was giving a speech to an audience that wasn't even there.
Talking about standards, talking about rules, talking about community image. And when she finally noticed me, standing at the window, watching her, she didn't calm down. She got louder. "You are lowering property values," she shouted. "This is unacceptable." I stepped outside, trying to stay calm, trying to handle it like a normal conversation. But she wasn't interested in a conversation. She was angry. And then she said something that changed everything. She looked directly at me with complete confidence and said, "If you don't follow HOA rules, we'll make you." That wasn't advice. That wasn't a suggestion. That was a threat. Clear, direct, unmistakable. After that day, something shifted. This wasn't just annoying anymore. It wasn't just a misunderstanding. It had turned into something personal. And from that point on, things didn't get better. They got worse, much worse. A few days later, I came home from work, and the moment I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. I couldn't explain it right away, but something was different. The driveway looked cleaner. The yard looked trimmed, neater than I had left it. And for a second, I actually questioned myself. Did I do this? Did I forget? But no, that didn't make sense, because I hadn't touched anything. And then I noticed it. My trash bins were gone, completely gone. Not moved, not hidden, gone. And then I looked at the lawn again. It had been cut perfectly, too perfectly. That's when everything clicked. That uncomfortable feeling, that sense that something wasn't right, it all made sense.
And deep down, I didn't need proof. I didn't need to guess, because I already knew exactly who it was. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't even imagine at the time, was how far she was willing to go. And trust me, the moment I saw my property had been touched, something changed inside me. It wasn't just frustration anymore. It wasn't just annoyance. It was something deeper. Because when someone crosses a line like that, touch your things, change things without your permission, that's not just disrespect. That's control. And in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't going to stop, unless I stopped it. So I didn't wait. I didn't overthink it. I went straight to her house. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Because at this point, ignoring the situation had already failed, and if I didn't take control now, it was only going to get worse. The walk to her house felt longer than usual, every step filled with frustration, confusion, and a growing sense of determination. Because I wasn't just going there to ask questions anymore. I was going there for answers. I reached her door and knocked. Once, twice, and then the door opened. She stood there, looking completely calm, too calm. And then I saw it. That smile. Not friendly, not welcoming. Satisfied, like she had already won something, like she was proud of what she had done. Before I could even say a word, she spoke. "You're welcome." For a second, I didn't even understand what she meant. So I asked her, "What are you talking about?" She crossed her arms, leaning slightly against the doorframe, and said, "Your house looks much better now." I just stood there, trying to process what I was hearing. She wasn't denying it. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't even pretending it wasn't her. She was proud. Proud of stepping onto someone else's property. Proud of changing things that didn't belong to her. That's when my tone changed. I looked her straight in the eyes and said clearly, "You had no right to step onto my property, no right to touch anything, no right to be there." But she didn't care, not even a little. Her expression didn't change, her tone didn't soften. If anything, she seemed even more confident. "This neighborhood has standards," she said, "and if you live here, you follow our rules." And right there, in that moment, something became completely clear. This wasn't about rules. This wasn't about the neighborhood. This wasn't even about the house. This was about control. She needed to feel in control. And the fact that I wasn't part of her system, that I wasn't following her rules, it bothered her, more than it should have. And that's when I made a decision. No more ignoring, no more hoping it would go away, no more patience, because clearly she wasn't going to stop. So if I wanted this to end, I had to handle it differently. That same day, I started documenting everything, every interaction, every moment, every detail. I installed cameras around my house, front yard, driveway, side entrance, anywhere someone could possibly enter. I made sure it was covered. Because at this point, it wasn't about proving a point anymore. It was about protecting myself. And then I waited. Not for long, because people like her don't stop. They escalate. Within 2 days, it happened again. She came back, just like before, walking into my yard like she belonged there, touching things, moving things, inspecting everything. But this time, everything was recorded. Clear footage. No doubt. No argument. Just proof. But
what they care about is control. And the moment they lose that control, they fall apart. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more real-life stories like this. And I want to know, what would you have done if you were in my situation? Would you ignore it or confront it? Let me know in the comments.